What's happening, bunnies? And today we've got a nice Auto Chess Mobile gameplay for you. It is a slightly off meta comp with a 6 Hunter Druid setup. Most of the guys are going Hunter Feathered at the moment, and this was an attempt to see if 6 Hunter can still work. We did make it to Rook 7, so quite excited for that as we grind our way towards Queen ranking. If you guys enjoy the gameplay, don't forget to drop a like and drop a subscribe, and we'll see you in the gameplay. Enjoy. What's happening, bunnies? Back for another gameplay for you guys. This is a really cool one. I have been trying the latest comp, which I think is honestly, in terms of strategies, this is the current meta. This is really the one of the strongest builds that you can have, which is the Feather Hunter comp. It's really strong. If you get your druids up quickly and you get them to level 3 and you get the right combination of hunters and maybe 1 or 2 crowd control units, this is definitely one of the the comps of the current meta. So it's a really enjoyable match. We actually face some hectic competition. I think it's a Goblin gamble, which is always difficult. Obviously, if the gamble pays off, Goblin gamble can be quite difficult to compete against, but we give it our shot. So let's see how the game goes. As you can see, I missed that now, but we started off already with an Agassiz. And the Agassiz Ranger is a nice early game piece because he's ranged. So for the most part, the guys tend to go for either Taboo Witches or some kind of warrior, which means that their attack will be on the front line. So having something ranged or a hunter of some sort is always nice, because whilst they're being occupied on the front line, you manage to get the DPS in from the side. So that's always something that I like to do at the beginning. Optionally here, I could have taken the 3 warrior synergy with the God of War that I've left on the bench, but it's okay. We're not into the human rounds yet, and possibly I'll change out at that stage. But I'm quite happy. Obviously, with the creep rounds, it's not so hectic, and you should be able to also, you can see how I was blessed with items. To have mana crystals ready with armor, etc. at this stage of the game is an absolute gift. So I'm really happy with that. Pick up another hunter. Shining Archer. Not my favorite in the hunter category, but still a decent piece to have at this stage. And already I'm starting to think, potentially if we're not going warrior, we're keeping all the different branches open. So we've got warrior there, we've got warrior beast, potentially opening up. We have the unicorn then if we want to go druid, and we've got our 2 hunters and our feather units there, just in case we go into a feather druid build. So I always say to you guys, try and make sure that you keep your options open, that you're able to branch into various directions. Once you scout and start seeing what the other players are running, that can influence your decision in terms of which branch to go into. And obviously whatever you get in your shop, example, now I get the Whisper Seer. I'm assuming I'm going to pick that up because Whisper Seer is going to help me with building my feathers and my druids, and immediately I get rid of the God of War. I still keep the warriors there because there's a beast warrior synergy that can happen, and maybe even beast warrior with druid as well, or even beast warrior hunter or warrior hunter. So there's many different options that I keep available, and I think that that's key to do in the early game. I haven't used any of my items yet. Generally, if I'm running, for example, a Goblin mech strat, and I know that I'm going to be getting rid of them after the early game and branching off into a different strategy, I'll throw those items on because I know that I'm going to get them back at a later stage to put onto the key players. Problem now is I could be keeping any of these pieces, and I don't want to commit to putting specific items on specific units at this stage, because there's the potential that I keep all of them or some of them, and I don't necessarily want those items on those pieces in the late game, especially with the mana type items. Mana items are so important for certain units. For example, if we're going hunter, and we get a siren, you'll definitely want to have some sort of a mana item on the siren, otherwise it takes way too long to ultimate. So I've kept some of those items. I don't want to be spending all of them unless I'm pretty sure I'm going to be keeping them. I've put the armor onto the Red Axe because I know that he's at a 2-star now, and so it's definitely going to benefit him, and if I do get rid of it, I'll get it back if I get rid of the Red Axe. But for now, he's definitely going to help carry us through some of the earlier rounds. That being said, we have been losing a lot of our rounds, so potentially we'll move into a losing streak, and that's also okay, because when it comes to building a losing streak comp, you'll find that Feathered, or Feathered Druid even, Feathered Druid Assassin or Feathered Druid Hunter are great comps to lose streak into, because when you come out of them, you can come out of them quite powerful because of the way that Druids level up to 3 stars so easily and so quickly. So by the time you come out of that strat or out of the losing streak, you can already come on with a team that's powerful enough to climb the ladder very quickly and ensure you the transition into a win streak. And that's kind of the idea of that. So we're continuing to build. I've put the Doom on simply because he's really strong on the front line, and I have been using my econ quite a lot, so the bench is quite full. It's not very well ordered either, and so my bench management wasn't great there. But I'm still not committed to a specific strategy, and I think that's why my bench is so full. Once I have a firmer decision in terms of which branch I want to take, I'll definitely get rid of the other units that I don't need. But what's important for now is that I keep my options open and just know that I will then have the ability to move into whatever branch I want. I think this might help clarify by getting the 2 level 2 hunters. You can see then I immediately sell the Stone Spirit because it helps with the hunter synergy. I know with the recent update they've gotten rid of the Skull Hunter, so you won't see Skull Hunter around anymore. This was recorded, I think, a day before the update happened, where they brought in Rogue Guard and removed Skull Hunter. So at this stage he was I think for any Feather Hunter comp, Skull Hunter is not going to be a piece that would be used anyway. I brought him in just because potentially it will help me with the cave synergy in the early game, as well as with just getting the 3 hunter synergy started. But he's definitely not a piece, even when he was available like now. He wasn't a piece that you're going to keep into the late game necessarily, unless you're like super lucky and you get him to level 3 really early or something like that. He's not a piece that I would potentially keep in very long in the game. He'd definitely be far better replaced with a Dwarf Sniper or a Wind Ranger. But he's in there for now. He gives us cave synergy with the Red Axe Chief, so I think that's probably why I selected to put him in there for now. Plus he was what was available, so we just went with that. Okay, you can see we're not on a losing streak. We're doing that very unhealthy behavior of winning some and losing some, which is not great. Again, you want to either be rocking the blue flames or the white flames at the bottom, and pushing one of the streaks, whether it's won or lost. You don't want to be floating in the middle, and that's what we're doing at the moment. That's not great. I'm thinking now, definitely would want to take the Dwarf Sniper. We take the Skull Hunter as well, just in case we potentially get a level 2 or another piece to get 2 stars. But again, long game or end game, you're definitely not going to be running with a Skull Hunter, and we'd probably want to put in the Dwarf Sniper instead. And if we're going feathered, even more so, it definitely wouldn't be a usable unit. We'd want to go into the Wind Ranger. Ranged is always nice. If you've got a reasonable front line, a ranged or I always call them ranged, but a hunter synergy is always great against golems. Never have any issues with them. And now you can see like my mana items are starting to pay off. Again, it would probably be far more valuable to have used those on a Wind Ranger. I didn't have one at this stage. And potentially that could be a late game misplay, and this is something that we'll chat about I think later on in the match, but
my arrow always arrives
it might have made more sense to save a more advanced mana item for something else. But you can see immediately we've got a werewolf there, which is something that could be useful. We've got the razor claw, which is imperative, and I think I saw Warpwood Sage there as well. Yes, I did. And that's key. So we're going to definitely have to lock this, because 4 out of those 5 units in the shop are pieces that we're actually going to use. So we need to make sure we have space for that. And I think potentially this could be a moment where we could get rid of Skull Hunter, so that we have bench space. Our bench management hasn't been great, but if we get rid of the Abyssal, because the Abyssal Guard's also not something that we need for this strat, it's definitely not a key piece. And we've just kept him for the warrior synergy, so I think we'll take him out, or the Skull Hunter potentially, and replace that with the Dwarf Sniper. But let's see what we do. We'll need to put some pieces. We don't have Econ. Okay, so we decided to get rid of the Abyssals, which I think is the right call. Put the werewolf in place, and did we not take the Shining Archer? I think we're still thinking about it at this stage. Okay, cool. So finally starting to manage my bench a bit better, putting all the druids on one side, ensuring that I have my ranged comp on the other side, and then I finally take the Shining Archer so we can progress towards 3-star. Okay, so Aegisthus obviously as a passive unit, that wooden club is very useful, because potentially we could turn that into a frantic mask, which is useful for that, because even though it silences her, she gets the speed increase, which is great.
Hunter or hunted, your choice.
Okay, so again, I think this answers the question we were chatting about earlier around should we not rather be using the Dwarf Sniper? Absolutely, but the fact that we got a level 2 at this stage, Skull Hunter, we put it in for now, and eventually that's gonna probably be taken out and replaced with the Dwarf Sniper. But just the fact that it's level 2 just gives us a little bit of tankiness on the back line, especially if there's an assassin team that's running, or assassin strat. When those guys jump to the back line, they tend to be quite effective against your ranged units, and the Skull Hunter definitely will help that cause. Okay, so we were on a winning streak there. We're definitely going to lose this match, and this is against Edgar, who is on 100 HP and a 10 win streak, or 8 win streak, and that's unfortunate, but you can see he's in a good position there. His econ is huge, and we know that we haven't developed our strat fully yet. We know we're going into a feather druid or hunter druid type synergy, so we're still okay with that. We'd like to get our econ a bit higher. I definitely think that would be the right choice, but we make the decision to drop the warrior synergy and instead put on the 2-star Razor Claw. Now he's extremely tanky, so I don't think that's an issue. I think at this stage of the game we need to make a decision which direction we're going, and then get rid of the pieces that we're not using, so we can start economizing. And as you can see there, we absolutely ran through the fire twice. A decent victory there.
Nature will always protect us.
So I think the decision we'd probably be looking at here would be, do we keep the werewolf in, or do we put in the level 2 or the 2-star Warpwood? I think we wanted to maintain the beast synergy, so we kept the Razor Claw in, but what we have forgotten is to reposition for the wolf pack. So I can see that already. definitely one of my biggest learning curves has been monitoring the rounds, because the rounds, knowing what round you're on is so important when it comes to repositioning for your creeps, as well as I think for economy. Just monitoring your leveling up according to where the other guys are, as well as what round it is. It's very important. There's certain milestones that you want to achieve as the rounds progress, and that's definitely something I need to work on. Fortunately, my team was strong and we managed to get through the wolf pack. If I had a slightly more inferior or a slightly inferior front line, that could have posed some trouble.
Draw.
So I'm not sure if we take the Siren this round. Siren is key. If you're going into a hunter comp, Siren is a good piece to have. The crowd control, obviously turning everyone into stone, is absolutely imperative, because it then allows your back line to get a lot of DPS off for those few seconds, and that's a game changer. So I'm not sure if we're going to take the Siren now, but I would definitely like to have one for the later game. At the moment, our druids are absolutely doing a wonderful job. So that panda, that razor claw is phenomenal, and that's helping our ranged units get the DPS as we need it. And yes, we take the Siren. Potentially next round we will be 816 in terms of our leveling, so we might want to level up there. I'm not sure if we do, but I would think I would probably not have taken the Skull Hunter. I think that was probably a misplay. Maybe, I suppose we could keep it there, but the bench is already quite full, so I know that going into the later game, I don't think I'd want to have the Skull Hunter there, so I'm not going to be pushing towards 3-star, and I think that I'd rather have saved that space and economy for a different piece, and I'm sure at a later stage we'll probably get rid of that Skull Hunter. Cool, so this is Blazer.
I was born lucky.
Blazer's third from the bottom, but he's also running. He's actually running a strange strat, because he's definitely got druids going there, but he's also got the lightning blade, so that's to add to the feathers. So it's a feathered druid, and then the shining dragon there. So potentially looking into some sort of mage synergy. I'm not sure, but obviously because it's feathered as well, maybe he's looking for a 6 feathered or maybe even a 9 feathered synergy. Who knows? Alright, so we make the decision to level up, so we can reposition and add in our 4th hunter. I think in the current meta, 3 hunters is sufficient. You don't need to move into a 6 hunter comp. Because we're going druids and we didn't pick up the other feathered units, it's not so much a feathered comp as it is a druid comp. So this is more of a hunter druid comp than a hunter druid feathered comp, which is I think what the current meta is. Yeah, so I might actually have been a bit mistaken at the beginning of the vid, because I think I said it was
All I need is my bow, an arrow,
feathered
and a target.
druid hunter comp, and I actually think, I'm not 100% sure, but it feels like we are moving more into a hunter druid comp, but that's all good. Again, I think that was a misplay, the selling of the Siren at this stage. Siren is such a useful piece, and we're definitely looking to use it late game, and as we mentioned, we had the Skull Hunter there, so ideally I think I would have wanted to have gotten rid of that Skull Hunter and kept the Siren in place and used that space to pick up the Aegisus. And this is Edgar. Edgar is still sitting on 100 HP, which is unbelievable. Economy is extremely decent for around 19. He's in a good position. He's leveled up to level 8. His econ sign is on 100, so he's sitting happy, and he's the guy that's running with a goblin mech gamble, or goblin gamble. So that's going to be tough to beat. It obviously means he got all the pieces that he wanted and he got them early. If you are going goblin gamble, you tend to slow down the progression of your leveling up, because your percentage chance of getting goblins and mechs is much higher at the lower levels. That's for your basic goblins. Once you have got them to like a two-star level, you then actually want to level up really quickly, because you need to get to the high levels to get your key units, which is your devastator, obviously. And that only comes at a later stage. So I think that's kind of what he's going for now. You can see he's already on level 8, which means he got the early pieces that he wanted to get his basic 2 stars, and now he's pushing to get the Devastator in and potentially the Venomancer, so he can get the 6 goblin goblin gamble. And once he's got that synergy, that's going to be tough to beat. A full goblin gamble, and potentially you generally would add in maybe like a warlock synergy to go with the Venomancer. That's a really tough comp to beat, so he's definitely going to be tough towards in-game, and he hasn't lost a match yet, so let's see how that plays out. But back to our board, to our game. We're now up against Emilian, and Emilian is on a losing streak with no economy, so I don't think it's an intentional losing streak. I think they're just struggling, and we take them out quite reasonably.
That's disappointing.
So this is Coca. Coca's also on a winning streak, and I think just wanted to scout his board to see what is happening, because he was facing us, and he did beat us, so that's something to look out for moving in towards the later game. That now looks like someone who went into a losing streak and came out with a nice strong team. So depending on how their econ is and whether or not they got the right pieces, that could take them all the way into late game, but only time will tell. Cool, so we're really fortunate because we've got all 4 druids that we need, which means that we can hopefully quite quickly get our 3-star units, and when you're running a druid comp of any sort, those 3-star druids are imperative. If you don't have 3 stars on almost all your druids, that's definitely going to affect your end game and your ability to win the match. But now we're up against Firebird, and it seems to be a reasonably straightforward match.
My cloak's good luck.
Our Razor Claws ulted quite quickly. I mean, he got 2 pandas off there, so that's pretty cool.
Blade Fury. Live by the sword, kill by the sword.
I did pick up, I mean, like, he has a pirate captain, which definitely, you know, is a great piece to have. But I picked up the swordman simply because I already had the 2 cavemen on the board, and I think I might have been thinking that there'd be a storm shaman coming at a later stage, and so I'd get the 4 cave synergy. But realistically, at the end of the game, that's not really that powerful. It's not necessarily worth having, and it doesn't really mix well with this comp. I wouldn't say that it's necessary for this comp at all. So you can see I quickly made the decision. I need to build up the druid, so let's get the Whispers here on. Let's get rid of the swordsman. We potentially going to look at getting rid of Skull Hunter at some stage. So it's not necessary. It's not necessary for us to keep.
All I need is my bow,
an
arrow, and a target.
Okay, so now we've been playing. I mean, we've got a full bench, so we need to. Our econ's at a good place. We can start leveling up. That 3-star Shining Archer is fabulous because, number one, it gives us some nice DPS from the back end, but also it gives us bench space. And you can see, because we haven't been getting our druids on so quickly, that takes up a lot of bench space. So it's great that we managed to free up some of that. And the 3-star Unicorn is also important for us because it gives us some space on the bench, so that's also great. I know some of the guys might be thinking, well, how could we take off the werewolf for the unicorn? I think it's really just because we had the werewolf at a 1-star, and one-star werewolf at this stage of the game is not going to provide that much for us. It's really not going to be assisting us from a DPS perspective, and we haven't been fortunate enough to get it to 2 stars. So the 3-star unicorn is actually going to provide us with some really nice healing and bench space, which is really just the most important. So we now get our 3-star Whisper Seer, and based on that we decide to level up quickly and put it in. I do think, again, because I wasn't watching the rounds, I didn't realize that this is a creep round, in which case I might have been able to wait for an additional round before I performed that level up, just from an econ perspective. But again, we're all learning as we go through this journey. It is still a new game for me, so I'm enjoying it so much because I'm learning so much about this game on a day-to-day basis. I think every match that I play, I learn new things. All the content that I'm watching from all the different creators out there, from Chaos Squirrel to Claytano, Shredded Puzzle, all those guys are phenomenal, like Scoundrel, and I learn so much from them. So I'm really enjoying it, but I am still learning. So I think this is a journey that we've gone together between creators and the rest of the bunnies out there. So I really hope that you guys learn with me, and at the same time help me learn, so I can improve the content and get out better stuff for you. Cool, so we've got some we're waiting for one more Warped Sage, and then we get our level 3 there. You can see already we've got 2 3-star druids, which is great, and ideally we'd want to get a 3-star Razor Claw because that's going to push us over the edge. We're now facing Yelix. You can see we've already got 2 guys out, so there's only 6 remaining, and 6th and 5th position are also in a difficult spot. 6th drops out, and potentially 5th could drop here as well. They've only got 4 econ and 10 HP, but we do take the match against Yelix, and I'm assuming that he either goes out this round or he's lucky enough to stay in 1 or 2 more.
You can't stop the Cave Clan.
Okay, so you'll notice we're still running Skull Hunter. I did mention we'd potentially get rid of Skull Hunter at some stage. I think that... Oh, this is great. Okay, cool. So we get our level 3, we managed to get our 3-star Aegis at the same time. And I think potentially we should get rid of the Red Axe. I don't think we need to have the Red Axe in. Yes, and we do that. So that's great. Again, Cave Clan synergy, it's really not that strong, and I don't think it's worth having in game. The 3-star Warpwood is going to be far stronger for us as a tank on the front line, and to give our ranged units time to get their DPS in. And you can see the difference it's making. We are absolutely climbing through Blazer, who's sitting in 3rd place at the moment. Right, so we've got a Beast Warrior still in the game, and then we've got two druid teams and our Goblin Gamble. And you can see on his screen he just faced us. That's Edgar, and he still beat us. So it was only by 2 units, but he is still beating us on his screen. The other reason I think potentially why I might have kept Skull Hunter in this long is A, because I didn't have other pieces to replace him with. Remember, I got rid of the Siren early on, but also at this point I might have been considering looking at a 6 Hunter build. I still have econ, I have sufficient econ that might allow me to push to a 10 unit build, in which case, and I get rid of Red Axe, in which case I'd need the Skull Hunter to complete the 6 Hunter synergy. I've now got, I think I've got 4 Hunters. Put the Dwarf, the Shining, and the Aegis, and the Star. So I've already got 4 Hunters. Siren will give me a 5th, and there's still a Wind Ranger that's available, as well as a Tsunami Stalker. And because of the level that we're on at level 8, there's quite a high possibility that we run into Tsunami Stalker. So that would be the potential for a 6 Hunter synergy, and that's not really, meta at the moment. It's not necessarily worth it, but I am in a happy position, and I think that could have been something that I was considering at that time. I do decide to go for the level up, so reach level 9. It's important because Edgar's, who's in first place, is already on level 9. They obviously have been running an amazing economy build, and so we need, in order to compete, we need to make sure we're at that level. Okay, so sure. Right, so we're facing Edgar now, and he's strong. He's very strong. I think that we could still beat him here simply because I don't think he has the Devastator yet. So he's running the helicopter, which is great, but it doesn't give him, yeah, you can see on his board, he's only 5/6 on Goblin. So in order for him to become super OP, he needs that last unit, which is the Devastator. Without the Devastator, the Goblin Gamble can't work.
Mortal words
So
cannot describe.
we get our Tsunami Stalker, which means we can start focusing on Econ, and that means we're likely to look at a six hunter setup here. We've got all our druids up to 3-star with the exception of Razorclaw, and that's definitely something that we would want to do. And so we start pumping items onto Siren and Tsunami Stalker because they're going to be key units in the late rounds. I think they absolutely can clutch games for you, and as a support unit, Siren is absolutely fabulous. So I'm really excited to get it on the board.
Beat you. Now I can afford a
And
bigger
potentially get
candle.
that six hunter synergy. I'd really like to run into a Razorclaw though as well, because it would be really helpful for us to, yeah, there we go. It would be really helpful for us to have a 3-star Razorclaw. So we're on a win streak. I didn't even notice. We're on a win streak, which is great, and that's because we managed to beat Edgar and bring his HP down a bit. So obviously he's not invulnerable. Oh, but this person, so this is Blazer, and Blazer's now got a 3-star Shadow Caller, and all these druids at 3-star. Is that an, oh, it's a 3-star Lightning Blade as well, and a 3-star Shining Dragon. In theory, he should have a really strong team. So
You can't hold a
Firebird's
candle
out
to
now.
my power.
Okay, that's wow. So he's got some really strong units, but I think maybe his comp isn't quite 100% the way he'd want it to be. I would so this is, I can see what's happening here in my head. That's me contemplating God of Thunder, but obviously it doesn't fit into the comp, so that's not something I would look at. If you look at Blaze, okay, so there's Blaze's problem, right? He's got six units at 3-star, which is great. But yeah, so he's got 6 3-star units, but he's up against 2 teams that have 9 units, and that's just not going to work for him. So maybe bad decisions in terms of leveling up, and he doesn't have the econ now to be pushing to a higher level. So we're still pretty strong. I mean, we do quite well against Edgar here. Yeah, I mean, we're beating Edgar at the moment by quite a lot of pieces. If you look at Blazer, we're beating him as well. I think in any normal game, if he had a full set of equivalent pieces, say 8 or 9 pieces, he could be winning this match simply because he has such strong individual units and he does have the synergy set up, but he definitely didn't play his econ right in this match. So we're actually beating both teams quite comfortably at this stage. You'll see I make the decision to go and level up on Curve. I do spend most of the economy I have left, but I think I really wanted to see what it'd be like. I very seldom run 6 hunters, and this was an opportunity to make that happen. So I put Tsunami Stalker on the front line with the Siren. Siren and Tsunami Stalker now have mana pieces, so potentially I could have moved them back a bit, but I do have ranged guys in the back line, so there wasn't much space to put them. And this is now us against Blazer again. Blazer's now added a 7th piece onto his bench, or 7th piece onto the board, but we're still absolutely climbing through him.
My power.
At this stage of the game, I mean, it doesn't look like there's much chance or much potential that the other guys are going to be able to come back. However, you can never count this game out at this stage, irrespective of how far you think it is. Edgar had a lot of economy, and as you can see now, he's busy rolling down. He's rolling down and rolling down. He's now hit 20. I think he was at around 60 or 50 econ. So he's rolled down substantially, and I know that he's looking for one piece, and that's the Devastator. And you can see he's found it. Okay, so now that he's got the Devastator, this changes the game. I mean, we were beating him by about 6 players, and I think, I'm not sure, but you'll see now the difference that it makes in terms of the armor and HP of these units. Have a look at that. That is an unbelievable change. That is a whole 180 turn.
Enemies, just a candle in the wind.
Cool, we do beat Blazer, but wow, the difference that Goblin gamble makes if the gamble pays off is day and night. It's unbelievable. So he's managed to find the Devastator, which means that his stats are now through the roof in terms of, I think it's armor and HP, which means that he's now, I mean, we were beating him by like 6 pieces, and he's now beating us by 6 pieces simply by obtaining 1 piece. So that's the gamble, and I think the gamble paid off for him, which is great. So we've decided to do a bit of a reposition. Because our Tsunami Stalker and Siren have mana crystals, we've moved them back. We don't need them on the front line because they don't need to receive damage to build mana. They're managing to get it through the mana crystals. So Black Dragon King, not an issue at all. Absolutely fine through that. So
Now I
no
can afford
problems
a
there.
bigger candle.
So this side of the vice is quite a nice item. It has a very similar effect to the Shaman synergy, where it turns one of the units into a penguin as soon as the round starts, and that's always useful, especially if you're up against the Goblin Gamble. That potentially could impact, for example, a Devastator or a Helicopter, and I think Edgar has both, so that's also not a great win for us. He's got I think his new piece is the 2-star Wind Ranger, which can make a difference, but I don't think it's substantial enough. I think we can pretty much count him out of the match. You can see our Siren ults there, our Tsunami Stalker ults, and even though he's got strong units, you really need to build your team up as a unit, not just as individual pieces. So yeah, there you can see he gets knocked out. And now we're having a look on Edgar's screen because he's facing us, and he's beaten us there by 5 pieces. You can see he's got all the level 3s in the world. We managed to get our level 3 Razor Claw, so yay, that's something we've been waiting for a while. And the Wraith Shard's also awesome because that'll impact our speed. It'll increase our speed quite substantially. I'm assuming we give that to Razor Claw. Yeah, okay, so that's great. But looking at his team, wow. Okay, he's also got a Dark Spirit on there. Was that a Dark Spirit or a Ghost Prophet? It's a Ghost Prophet. So he's got a Ghost Prophet. Wow. This guy's got the full 3-star Goblin mech setup with the Devastator, a Helicopter, a Dark Spirit, and a Ghost Prophet. So he's absolutely grinding through us. We are still up on HP. You can see it's 36 to 15. The problem we have is our econ is 0. We've reached 10 players, and there's really not much that we can do to change the current state of the game. The man's got a 4 Warlock synergy on top of his Goblin mech stuff. So when it comes to a state where econ is no longer an option, more pieces are no longer an option, you don't have anything on the bench, there's no items, all you're really left with is positioning. So I think as a last ditch effort, I mean, we know we're losing quite heavily, so we make an attempt to try reposition. I think the idea was to position directly in front of them, of the other team, so that we could get our ultimates off quicker, and potentially our Siren could make a difference because, and the Tsunami Stalker, because you get the turning into stone, but and the Tsunami Stalker for the stuns, but it clearly doesn't make much of a difference. So it's not looking good. I feel like we played a good game, we played a good match, and we managed to get the pieces we wanted, but sometimes it's just not enough, and and you know, you get someone who manages to build an absolutely phenomenal team. So at this stage, all we're left with is more positioning. So I don't even know realistically how much logic there was behind this. I think the idea was because of the Devastator and the helicopter, they have specific area of effect. So the idea would be to spread out the units so that the damage would only impact certain units and give certain units less damage, and therefore more time to implement damage. And it worked a bit there. I mean, if you think about it, we did survive the initial blast, which was usually killing us, but the Devastator is still alive, the helicopter is still alive, and those 3-star units are just way too much for us to deal with. Even with the strange egg, I mean, there's nothing we can use it on. Potentially, you know, maybe we could have dropped the 6 Hunter synergy by getting rid of the Skull Hunter and putting in, you know, maybe a Dark Spirit or Ghost Prophet or something like that. But realistically, I think his team at this stage is just way too strong, and all we're really doing now is scrambling for our lives and just trying something to try and make this work. You can see it as a long match. I mean, we're already on round 40, which is longer than average. And I hate facing Glacier Clan for some reason. I always struggle against them. Those frontline units are so strong of theirs, but it's okay. I think we do manage to either pull through this or lose very slightly. It's going to be pretty close, and I think we're going to lose, but we only lose by 3 units, so the damage there isn't too heavy. But either way, at this stage, there's really not much that we could have done except try to reposition. So I think we do a last-ditch effort just by scrambling up the units more. I think as I'm learning the game more, I think there would probably have been a far better way to have dealt with this situation from a positioning perspective, and this is the kind of thing that I would learn from Chaos Squirrel, is tips on how to position better and more strategically. He's an absolute genius when it comes to that sort of stuff. So if I had to submit a video to him for guidance, this would be it, just to understand how I could have potentially repositioned, or was it just a situation where, you know, the game was over once the Devastator was found by Edgar. So anyways guys, we came second in that match, but I really wanted to share this video with you guys. I think it was still an amazing match. We had a really great synergy. We were just up against a really tough team, and that's the nature of the game. You know, sometimes you can play an amazing comp and you can do really well, but there's just a better one out there, and he had an amazing comp. So all props to Edgar there. This was a great game, and I enjoyed it, and I hope you guys did too. So we'll catch you in the next video, and thanks for watching. Enjoy.